Hi, everyone. Wishing all of you a very good evening. Thank you for joining us on a Wednesday evening. We're super excited to be speaking about MBA as a degree option, MBA as an upskilling option, MBA as a stage in everyone's life where we feel the need to reboot or reset what we've learned so far as a leader, as a manager. So, of course, not really questioning the importance of an MBA, but trying to figure with Mayank Kumar, the managing director and co-founder of upGrad, who's here with us, um, trying to figure out and discern the significance of an online MBA versus the perceptibility of an offline MBA versus a new age hybrid MBA, and how does that fare well against the other two when it comes to an employer? Uh, some of the other facts that we're going to talk about is the right age for an MBA, if there is actually one. I know we've long gotten over the taboo that MBA is age boxed. Uh, a couple of learners that we often interact with often ask us if can experience really be an alternative to an MBA degree? So why is there a need for a formalized degree when you've got enough experience? And who exactly is sitting in an MBA class? How does a person with 2 decades of work experience still benefit and leverage from an MBA degree? So we've got all of these things in perspective. We've got everything from the outcomes to an employer's perspective. And Mayank now, who heads a team of about 8,500 to 9,000 employees, um, we'll get an employer's perspective from him as well. But I think in this economy, we're very cognizant of the return that every cent will yield. So we'll also talk about the ROI of each of these mediums of an MBA. We'll start in a couple of minutes. I will meanwhile introduce Mayank, of course, and we're waiting for all of the others learners who had signed up for them to join in, and we take this discussion forward. I'll set forth a couple of housekeeping rules. Uh, Webinars are usually bandwidth intensive, and so I'd really appreciate if you can close down all of the other tabs unless you're doing something urgent, because you will not be able to hear us or watch us optimally. The second thing is there's a question and answer, a Q&A button towards the bottom panel of your Zoom application. Feel free to ask us any question that you may have for us, if at all. Of course, it's a fireside chat, so we're here to answer as many questions as you may bring forth in this webinar. And I think it's more about you and the personalized aspect of where you come from. How does an MBA help you, and what should be the next logical stage in your career, and if MBA makes sense or not. Um, so another 60 seconds, 6:35, and then we start. Plus, we're catering to MBAs abroad. So any specific country question that you may have, or how do you select the best school? If a GMAT is really required, XYZ, we can of course answer that. So good time to start. We've got a good, healthy audience with us. I'll introduce myself. I'm Praneeth. I'm the Associate Director for University Partnerships at upGrad Abroad. We have Mayank, who's of course very well acclaimed and known across the landscape. He's the managing director and co-founder of upGrad, the entire group. And so I'd let Mayank put forth his opening remarks, and then we take it ahead.
Perfect. Thanks, Praneeth, and welcome, guys. I know it's what's the day? Thursday, Wednesday,
Wednesday.
and Wednesday evening. Having taking our time at 6:30 is not a joke. So thank you very much for taking our time to talk to us. Before we get started, and I know people are joining in. Um, uh, I guess there's a chat window below, and I don't know if you guys can type it in the chat window. But could you? How many? I mean, how many of you have already done an MBA? Could you just type in yes for done an MBA, no for not done an MBA? So that, I mean, you can use the chat window, which is on your bottom place. I just want to understand how many of you guys have already done an MBA or not done an MBA, because I think that will give us a good perspective as to how you guys are perhaps thinking of an MBA, etc. I'm just checking whether they have the ability of putting it.
I have given everyone the right to chat with us now, Mac. Yes.
Okay, yeah, so they have the ability. Yeah, perfect. And and we'll come to some of the deeper questions as we go along. But I'm assuming that there's not too many folks out here who have done an MBA. And even if you have done an MBA, this session could still be useful, because in this particular session we are talking a little bit more about how should you look at and consider any kind of MBA outside of India as well, because that's one of the core part of today's session. So I think I got some answers of a couple of people, and I mean, it did not give me a full perspective. But again, I'm going to ask you another question. In terms of folks who are looking at doing an MBA, have you guys figured out what destination that you feel most comfortable about doing an MBA from? So are you looking for doing an MBA from India? Are you looking for doing an MBA from the US, from Germany, from Japan, from Korea? Just do you guys have you guys thought about any destination at your mind? So I can see Zishan is typing in Germany. Anybody else has discussed and thought about, okay, Polly is thinking of India. Well, Polly will cover a little bit of India, but the session is a lot more about how to look at global MBAs and international MBAs, and largely meant for people who are looking at completing their MBA and then getting post-study work visa to continue working in these destination markets. So so we got two Germany, one France, and one US from Ujjwal, and France from Arun. So I think it's quite a diverse background of people who are looking at MBAs and in different locations, different destination. Look, this is very important, and as we go through this, wow, I mean, that's a very sort of unique choice, Iqbal of Hungary. I think while we do have some programs from Hungary, it's quite a sort of unique option that we are looking at right now. Okay. So Dr. Anjana is looking at yeah, no, I think this happens. So Dr. Anjana, we were just talking a few days back. Sometimes when you are looking at going abroad, you only go abroad if you have a friend coming along with you, and that just makes it very easy for you to sort of move around from one location to another. And Zishan, Finland is a great option. I think all the Nordic ecosystem countries are very strong options. They are very high income countries, good healthcare, good infrastructure, good sort of education facilities. And for anybody looking at moving there with a post-study work visa, it just makes it a very good family package as well, that even if you want to settle down in Finland, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, etc., it's quite a good place for you to raise your family and sort of be with the family because in these countries provide very good benefits over and above the education that they provide out there. So I think Finland, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, these are all interesting sort of options overall. So I think we are seeing now some at least. So guys, by one point is use the chat window, use the Q&A window. I think the objective today is just to make it more interactive, so that both Praneeth and I can sort of answer the question, etc. Praneeth, let me just ask the last question, then I'll pass it back to you.
Yes.
One of the first questions that you would be thinking about, and all of you need to have clarity on, is that what is an MBA and why should you do an MBA? And that's the first question that everybody should have clear in your mind. I'm assuming, again, if you guys can use the chat window on the bottom side, are you guys clear why you want to do your MBA? Just if you're clear, just type in yes. If you're not clear, just type in no. That will just give us a better sense of how people are looking at MBA. So Khushi is not clear. Sumer is not clear. Yeah, okay. So there are people who are on the edge and not very clear why they should be doing an MBA. Let me just sort of talk about a little bit about why one should be doing an MBA and what is the value of MBA is when you're sort of looking at moving in. So when you look at a definition of an MBA, right? and you go to Wikipedia or any of the sort of location, it says MBA is a graduate degree that provides a theoretical and practical training for business or investment management. And that's the definition that people talk about as a definition for an MBA. They talk a lot of things about you can sort of build something out, you can understand the business really better. But if you ask me, having done a management program, I personally feel the MBA is a fast-track learning journey which will give you a holistic business understanding. It will give you a structured thought process. It will give you a good analytical approach to solving for business problem. And once you have all these things, a lot of decisions about how to run a company, how to take an investment decision, how to build a team, how to grow the organization, how to cut down on our organization, etc. A lot of these things gets clear. So many of you, I'm assuming that you're at different parts of your journey. Some may be doing finance, some may be doing HR, some may be doing legal or sales or marketing, etc. MBA is one particular program that gives you a very holistic understanding of the entire business. You get the whys of the business, the hows of the business, and the whats of the business. And once you understand that, the journey for you as part of your growth becomes a lot more diversified. So, for example, if I can see that Renubala is working in finance, and if you're working in finance, you can grow from a finance executive to a finance manager, to a VP in finance, and then to a CFO kind of a role. An MBA opens up the door for you to come back into business and take up the CEO route also. So MBA creates a very generic sort of understanding and generic sort of learning. So even for Ramya, even if you have done an MSc in physics, and let's say you're doing, I don't know what job you are doing currently, Ramya, but let's say you're doing a technical job, or you're working in a sales kind of a role. With an MBA, you get a slightly broader growth trajectory, and you can move up in the journey with the right sort of sense of growth, etc. And people do MBA, guys, just for largely four broad reasons. You do your MBA because you want to shift your domain. So I'm from finance, but I want to move to marketing. I'm from marketing, but I want to move to sales. I'm from sales, but I want to do business development, and so on and so forth. Many people look at doing an MBA for a designation change. I'm a manager, but I'm an executive. I can't break the management layer. And therefore, for me to become a manager, it's important for me to do an MBA. They look at changing the companies. I'm in company A, but I want to move to company B. And that's my sort of journey path. And MBA will allow you to make that shift and make that transition. I'm looking at shifting the country. I'm in India, but I want to be in Netherlands or in Switzerland or in the US or the UK. And then finally, the entire package of these four things is why people do an MBA, is because they're looking for a significant jump in their salary. Because MBA is an ROI product. When you're putting in $100, you want to get 200 in return. So at the end of the day, if you're at 6 lakh of salary, you want to move to 25 lakh, 50 lakh, 60 lakh, whatever the journey is. An MBA is a sort of path and conduit for you to take you from that salary structure to a different salary structure. Enough of talking about MBA stuff. I'll pause right now and let Praneeth sort of run through the session. And if you guys have questions, please keep the question coming. And happy to sort of take as we go along during the session today itself.
Thank you, Mayank. Of course, you shed a lot of light on the different factors one must weigh in, especially as a why do I really need an MBA and if it's for me. But other than that, Mayank, I know you listed growth, change in discipline, change in field, change in domain, change in the very industry they're thriving in, or if they want to extract more growth out of where they are at this point or where they want to go. Apart from that, Mayank, from an employer's perspective, what I was trying to talk about earlier, can experience actually alternate an MBA? And let's talk about someone who's got 5 to 10 years of experience. And I'm sure anecdotal, that you'll have anecdotal reference to talk about of why you chose an MBA and why you feel that at this day and time, an MBA can still be a superlative degree and can actually be the icing with whatever experience you've had. how do you see the value of it?
Yeah, no, sure. I think I'll answer it in two ways. I'll give you a statistics, Praneeth, and for everybody reference. So, I was looking at this data point around 2007, 8, 9, and then looking at data 2021, 22, 23. If I look at all the job openings at Monster, Naukri, and some of these platforms, about 60% of the job opening had a prerequisite of getting an MBA for that particular role. So for 60% of the job opening, an MBA was a prerequisite for joining, so on and so forth. Or 60% of the company had MBA as a prerequisite for them to join. Uh, and they were hiring MBAs graduates from the 2008 period, etc. Come to 2022, percentage of the companies that are hiring MBA graduates have gone to about 90 to 93%. So a significant jump has come where a lot of companies are hiring MBA graduates. There are two, three reasons for that, and therefore the value proposition question that you ask is important, because as an employer, uh, let's say if I'm working in tech domain and I'm working as a software developer, let's take Sumer's example of software developer, and he's working as a software developer in the organization. What is the journey path for him? He will be a software engineer. He will become a senior software engineer. He will then have an option of either becoming a technical architect or moving in the project management space. And one of these sort of choices he can take. But beyond a certain threshold level, it gets a little challenging for him to scale up and grow out beyond a certain sort of threshold limit. I mean, if you're super solid technically, you will grow very, very rapidly. But beyond a certain point of time, the business requirement changes as such, where companies are looking for people who have a better understanding of business. So as Sumer, I need to understand how to do sales, how to build a P&L, how to go out in the US and in North America and get the best sort of client coming to me. To know a whole lot of these things, MBA becomes a critical component. Last example I'll give you is MBA is something that even for somebody who comes from the armed forces background, or let's say people who have not been in the corporate life, MBA is the easiest bridge for them to come to the corporate life, because that just gives you a very sort of robust and holistic understanding of the business. I think I just want to add one last bit for everybody's reference, that today, please do not do a plain vanilla MBA. Try to pick up a specialization over and above what you're doing, because today folks are not looking for the MBA degree, but they're looking for skills along with it. So you do need to have, while you're doing an MBA, a very strong finance skill, a very strong HR skill, a very strong operation skill, a supply chain skill, or even for that matter, data science, AI, machine learning skills. Without skills, a pure play MBA, I don't see that sort of sustaining its own value. But an MBA plugged with some skills is a significant sort of potent combination out there in the market.
Got that, Mayank. And from what you said, I understand that irrespective of where they're coming from, it helps them fortify and solidify the exact niche skill set that they're bringing, along with their ability to manage and lead a certain project or organizational unit or setup. When you look at this, Mayank, in an entrepreneurial space, when there are individuals who are not even who haven't even done a bachelor's degree, how do you see the difference between an entrepreneur who has an MBA versus an entrepreneur who may not have it?
This
I
comes
yeah.
up a lot. Look, I mean, I think there's a Steve Jobs or whatever, Bill Gates was a college dropout, and this guy's a college dropout. And I think these are good statistics and they're good anecdote information to sort of throw in. But if you look at the proportion of people who are MBAs, who are entrepreneur, versus proportion of people who are dropouts and an entrepreneur, you will realize that the proportion of people who are an MBA and then become an entrepreneur is much higher as a proportion of the pool. So it's a question of likelihood, guys. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. Anybody can be a CEO of the organization. The likelihood for you to make and take that journey gets much faster and much better if you have a management sort of credential or degree.
Potential.
People look at it in a very different way. Very simple example. I mean, I grew up. Earlier in some of my jobs, there used to be a role that when the first job I joined, they said that, look, you are joining as a business analyst. You will go to senior business analyst. We can't promote you beyond this if you do not have an MBA. So many organizations have that as a threshold ceiling where you cannot grow beyond a certain threshold without an MBA. Now, this MBA is not the make or break of everything. I think Zishan mentioned that if he's done 12 years of IT experience and if he wants to become a product owner, he can take a short certification program. But Zishan, that will solve for the next 3-4 years of journey. And MBA stays for you for the rest of your life because it's a much long form play. And on an ongoing basis, you will have to come back and learn something new every 2 to 3 years. There's no stopping that. But once you do an MBA, at least you have taken an orbital shift, a delta shift, and you're sitting at a different level from where it is easy for you to build things out in the long run itself.
Got that nice. So until now, I think we've established the fact that it just doesn't end at experience, but an MBA helps you develop the faculty of dissecting problems at work and solving them better with a team, and ensuring that you have the requisite skill set to drive a larger purpose, a larger strategy, and a larger organizational goal setting. So I think personally, I've always argued with myself if I really need it, but I think that makes it more clearer for me that it's an indispensable tool to solving bigger challenges in the world and doing it systemically. With that said, I'm at a different age. I'm sure we're all very diverse with our age group. Here, Mayank, hearing you out and hearing your perspective, do you really believe that is there a right age for an MBA? Is there a right experience?
There's no right age. I think my personal take, and I know that Trisha had mentioned that, well, Trisha, you can do an MBA with 0 years experience. At Sumer's 3 years experience, a lot of people are now doing an MBA with 3 years experience.
Yeah.
Dishan's 12 years of experience, I have seen people doing MBA at 12 years of experience also. So I don't see there's a right or wrong age of doing an MBA. Here's a tool that I'll give all of you guys who are attending the session today, that like, how should you think about this particular decision? Number one thing, on a piece of paper, write down what is your career goal? What are you looking at achieving in your career in the next 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years? Look, beyond 5 years is very difficult, but at least put a goal for 1 year, 3 years, and 5 years. In that sort of goal kit, assess yourself how easy it is for you to reach the 1 year goal, 3 year goal, and 5 year goal. In the context of your own sort of skill sets and what you're good at, what you need to sort of do, pick up, so on and so forth. The third thing, once you have done a self-analysis and you know the goals, do a little bit of job market analysis. That, let's say, for example, I'm just making it up, that I've been doing finance for quite some time, but I think I want to do more business and business development. And that's a goal that I've kept for myself. I know finance, I know sort of business, P&L, so on and so forth, but I want to run a business. If that's a goal that you're keeping, in your skill set, you will say, I'm good at financial analysis, I'm good at numbers and analytical tool, but my holistic understanding of HR, people management skills, etc., is missing. And then you will sort of create that sort of approach. And then you will go out and check out in the market as to how many jobs are coming in, which has got business development, sales, growth, as a sort of core sort of function. Basis that, you will choose and you will talk to your own sort of advisors and mentors, and then you choose your specialization when you're doing an MBA. If you put that thing, you not only decide why you want to do an MBA, but you will also be able to get to an answer, where would an MBA help you in that transition? Plus, you will also get down to being very specific that, look, if I want to do an MBA, I want to do an MBA with this kind of specialization. I want to do an MBA with this kind of sort of concentration. And that will enable you to take the decision in a much sort of seamless manner. But from an age perspective, I don't see that age matters in MBA. I mean, I've seen people, I mean, I would only recommend, Trisha, that if you have a 6-month, 1 year experience, it definitely adds more value because you would have seen how organizations work. But even, I mean, in India, at least I know for the largest institution, 20-30% people are joining the MBA program straight out of school.
Yeah.
It works out. But if you had some experience, it definitely adds a lot more value and a lot more context. When you're sitting in a classroom, they are throwing problems like you have to fire 300 people. How do you go about doing it? If you're in an organization, you would have seen the dynamics and you'll be able to answer this question slightly more in a nuanced way. But I'll give you that MBA essentially is a body of skill, knowledge, and experience. And you have to see MBA with these three lenses. You will learn a lot of skills, and therefore age does not matter, because skills you will learn on an ongoing basis, whether it is finance, whether it is sort of four P's, the five C's, so on and so forth. You will learn a lot of hard skills and soft skills as you go along. It's a body of skills, it's a body of knowledge. You will learn from uh, case studies of multiple organizations and multiple companies. What did they face when they were when they came up with that kind of situation? So it gives you a good knowledge base outside of skills, whether it is time management skills, soft skill, hard skill, etc. You also learn and you pick up from the knowledge of multiple organizations, multiple companies. This is what happened in Flipkart. This is what happened in Walmart. This is what happened in I don't know, Tesla, or so on and so forth. And then the last one is that it's a body of experiences. And the third one is super critical, because when you're going in for the experience of networking. You're going into experience of learning from your peer group. If I'm in a classroom, if I was 1 year experienced guy with a 15-year experienced guy, let's imagine if Zishan and Trisha and Sumer go for MBA together. There's a 1 year guy, 3 year guy, and a 12-year person. All the experienced folks, when they interact, there's a thing to learn from each other.
Absolutely.
And that is a lot about. It's about networking. It's about meeting people. It's about learning from their experiences. Come together is what when the magic happens, and that's what. Despite the age range, I think people should look at as per where they are in their career and where they want to be, and decide whether the MBA is the right thing for them to do or not.
Absolutely, Mayank. I think to add to it, I was recently going to the World Economic Forum's Future Jobs Report. It's a very acclaimed report that comes out every 3 or 4 years. And one of the skills I was mentioning, look, the landscape is so ambiguous. No one really knows that how is job landscape going to be in 3 years. And so they were mentioning that about 97 million jobs are going to be new. And while they don't exist right now, no one really knows what skill sets are going to be required. So they were talking about the importance of transferable skills. And I think when you were talking, I was trying to think about that MBA is one of those degrees, rare degrees, where transferable skill set is so high in percentage. As a leader, as a manager, like you said, the ability to solve complex problems. I think while the landscape of AI or nanotech or chat GPT, large language models, whatever may come up, I still feel that the ability to solve complex problems, that
Yeah.
still sticks around and does pay off. Got that. So with that said, I can notice, Mayank, that a lot of them are curious to know from you, how do how do they establish a clear distinction between an MBA in India and MBA abroad? What is your tool to assess which one is going to be better for them?
See, look, I mean, I think for the best way of deciding about an MBA is at the end of the day ROI. I'll tell you the India versus global MBA or international MBAs. When I'm saying international MBAs, it is MBA going and studying in Germany, going and studying in Australia, so on and so forth. I think that decision making fundamentally has to come in from an individual's expectation of how they want to see their career grow and which location works for them. So there are lots of pros about India. I think this is a decade to be in India. Phenomenal opportunities will come in India, and I think India will have enough investment and sort of growth coming into the country. But many of us may want to pick up how things work out in a slightly more developed economy, and what are the issues and challenges that companies face at that stage, and get that exposure for 5-7 years before they can come back to India and participate in the India growth story. So for me, one of the key decision making for India versus outside and international is about the kind of quality of life that you want for yourself and for your family. There's a fundamental difference between what you get here versus what you will sort of end up getting in the US. The kind of exposure that you will get from working in advanced economy and sort of more developed economy versus what you can potentially get in working in India, because the nuances and the issues and challenges are going to be fundamentally very different. The kind of returns that you can get while working sort of abroad is a quick way for you to sort of maybe recover the ROI and recover the investment that you have made, and then sort of generate enough surplus before you come back. So I think for me, the overall approach, Praneeth, becomes more about where you are socially and family wise. So if you're, let's say, 10 years experience and you have a 5-year-old kid or 2 years old kid or 7 years old kid, and you feel that, look, I want my kid to study in Germany, I want my kid to study in Austria or whatever, Finland. I think education provides a good route for you to go there, get that education, start working, and build a long-term sort of path for your own son, daughter in that sort of destination market. It's a function of where you are in terms of your career. So let's say somebody out here with 4 years of experience at 6 lakh rupees of salary or 8 lakh rupees of salary. And then you say, okay, look, for me to get from 8 lakh to 50 lakh is going to take a fair amount of time to reach there. If I just go abroad and I get that exposure, get that experience, at least I'll be landing up when I return back at 50 lakh slightly better. So if India, you're staying 8 lakh to get to 50, whatever, 50 lakh, even at 15% sort of return in whatever 6-7 years, you will double, or 5 years, you will double. So it will take you to get to 40, about what, 10 years time to get to 40-50 lakh. Potentially you can go there, get a 6-7, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years experience and come back. You can still land up at that kind of a salary level. So it's also a function of where you are in terms of income and salary structure. And then finally, the decision making also ends up getting as that, okay, if I'm getting married, this is a good time for me, I'm young, I will get married, for me to be with my wife or my spouse or my husband in that part, and sort of have a slightly different experience altogether. So I think the global MBA gives a very strong experience, ROI combined, and a very good quality of life for the family. And I think all those things as a package comes in when people should be thinking of India versus abroad decision overall.
Absolutely, man. That absolutely makes sense. And I think to take all of our viewers back to something you mentioned earlier, I think a lot of countries now, including France, Finland, I know someone mentioned Hungary, they've become very open for family reunions. They've become very open, especially Finland and Hungary, let you bring your entire family along. They give working rights to your spouse. They let you, they let your kids go to school for free. The US is extremely liberal. Under the age of 12, they let you go to school. Your kids. So a lot in that landscape or from that standpoint is subject to change, even going further. So I think the real question then comes back to what Mayank had said. Where is it that you really want to go? And if you're expecting a very high jump, my personal experience also would direct or move the compass towards studying abroad. I have studied abroad. I've done a degree abroad, but my personal preferences brought me back. But I think to add to what Mayank said, the exposure, the networking, the skill, the inordinate amount of research, the amount of development, the amount of change that you witness abroad, and the fact that an MBA is so diverse in terms of its cohort. There's a doctor with 16 years of medical practice. There is an engineer with 2 decades of experience. There is then this person who's fresh out of college and has a different perspective. And then there are folks who've got 5 to 10 years of design experience, fashion, luxury, hospitality. Every single one, like Mayank was mentioning, the fact that when the case practices or case studies are done, that's when you learn how does everyone else solve that. And I think you learn so much in terms of dynamics and everything. I just feel that while India is exceptional, and Mayank was right about the fact that it's the decade to be in India, I just still to this date feel that Indian business schools lack that diversity of getting the world in one place. I'm not sure if Mayank would say
Yeah,
yes,
no,
no, but
if you have a classroom full of people who have seen the same thing happening in Africa or in China or in the UK, there's definite value for that, because then people will say, okay, look, I'm learning from this, I'm picking up these skills. You're not just learning what Flipkart did or whatever, let's say,
XYZ.
Myntra did. I mean, you're learning what Walmart did or what Alibaba did. And I think that exposure is absolutely, I think when I said skills, knowledge, and experience. That experience part, global MBAs do a phenomenal job of, because it's very wide and broader experience. And you just sort of, I mean, you are head and shoulder above of what you will learn from an Indian classroom. And the network that you will build, guys, this is also very important, because in experience and networking comes in. Tomorrow, if you're running a business from India or from wherever part, whichever part of the world, and you are working on a contract of exporting something to Brazil, in your class, there would be a guy or a girl from Brazil whom you can pick up the phone and say, hey, look, I'm planning to do that. How do I sort of go about building this out? That network is actually very valuable. And it just sort of adds a lot of value overall for anybody sort of looking at doing that global sort of exposure and the global sort of learning environment. So think of it as a knowledge, skill, and experiences, and you will be able to figure out in what part and what component, what education sort of drives and gives better sort of results for you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mayank. I know someone in the chat box is mentioning it. The Indian education system has given the world some of the greatest world leaders. Well, to add to that, I think we're never debating on the fact that is India on that level of education per se. We're just talking about, see, coming back to India or staying back in the place that you're studying at is a personal choice. I think the real debate is the choice of where you're going to educate yourself. That is in question at this moment. Where do you get the most amount of exposure and diversity? India is a wonderful economy, marketplace to thrive in at this point, especially more than ever. So that's out of the, that question that you're asking me is not on the shelf. That is not debatable at all. Next up.
Yeah, I just want to answer this one question that I think Abhijit had asked that question, like not Abhijit, I think it was Abhijit, like somebody asked that, look, can I come back? I think you can absolutely come back.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody can come back. I think Praneeth is an example of that coming back. On a very sort of lighter note, I just want to put across is that I have not seen too many people coming back. So once they go there, they prefer to be there. And this is a phenomena, guys. I think, look, a lot of Chinese students go abroad. When they go abroad to learn and come back. When a lot of Indian students go abroad, Indian learners go abroad, they go abroad and they prefer to work there for a larger period of time.
Yeah.
Sort of get the right ROI before they can come back. But in today's era, I think there's so many of my friends and colleagues who've studied abroad who want to come back because they see the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think given their education and the exposure that they have had, they're actually getting access to good quality roles and high quality sort of opportunities overall. So there's definite benefit of you foreign return versus sort of homegrown Indian. While you get the context in India, but the foreign education and the foreign sort of stint does add to the diversity of what the organizations are looking for.
Absolutely, Mayank. We'll jump to our last one, and then we'll pick a few from the audience. Which are some of the most affordable MBAs in the world that you feel will also promise to give the most amount of return on investment, Mayank?
I was very surprised. So this one, I was going to just say, Praneeth, that it would have been India. But when I was just checking out the data and statistics, I realized that some of the MBA programs that are available in some of these international markets are cheaper than what we get in India. And that was something of surprise to me. So I looked at some of the data points. So there's an MBA program that I think we are also running with IU Germany. It's a 60 ECTS European credit sort of program. That particular program, it comes at total cost of about 9 lakh rupees. And it's a surprising thing because you pay about 3.5 lakh for learning partly online in India and then go to Germany and pay about 6 lakh rupees over and above that. So at 9 lakh rupees getting an MBA in Germany with only a 6 month of stay cost, I mean, I don't think that too many Indian MBAs will come close to this particular price point, because I think in India also the MBA programs are 4-5 lakh, 6 lakh, 10 lakh rupees a year. And a program sort of ends up getting to about 15, 20, 25 lakh rupees. Some of the leading MBAs are now getting charged. They're pricing it themselves at about 40, 50 lakh rupees also. So this particular thing is just like, I mean, I never thought that this will come at about 9 lakh rupees, which was quite surprising. I also saw France MBA, which I think in the research came up at about 13 lakh from ICD Business School. Again, 4 lakh that you have to pay for an education in India online, and then about 9 months in France, and again, so 12 months in France, and you pay 9 lakh rupees. And France is a phenomenal market for one to build a good career. I mean, now Olympics is happening. I'm assuming that a lot of investment, etc., will flow in. And France is now actually become very cosmopolitan. And with the Brexit ecosystem, France has become a very attractive destination for a lot of people to work in Europe. A lot of large companies are setting up their presence in France so that they can attract talent in Europe at France itself. Then we have a US school, Edgewood College, where the total MBA cost comes out to be about 12.7 lakh rupees. Again, 4 lakh for education in India, and about 8-9 lakh rupees for the education in the US. US gives you about 3 years of OPT for some of these.
Yes, Mayank, correct.
You get 3 years of post-study work visa at the end of the program, and then sort of you can stay for 3 years and work there. And then we have one university in Finland, which was, a lot of people ask for Finland as an example, which is Sienoki University of Applied Sciences, SUAS, which is costing it again 13 lakh rupees. So I think these countries have interesting sort of dynamics, and depending upon what you're seeking, whether you want to be North America or Europe, in English-speaking country, in non-English speaking countries, emerging countries, etc., there are opportunities for you to do an MBA under 15 lakh rupees. And that's not something that at my time when I was growing up, there were opportunities like this. And I think this has come up a lot because of leverage of technology and the right collaboration. And we have seen some interesting stuff coming in the entire process with MBA getting redefined and reimagined.
Absolutely, Mayank. One of the things I'd like to add for our viewers is I think increasingly these countries are recognizing that more than attracting an absolute number of students, Finland and Germany, Mayank, and of course France being one, they've been very vocal and explicit about attracting talent through study as a route. But the fact that these countries recognize and acknowledge that we need talent at the end of the day. So a country like Germany says that, hey, out of a 1 or 1.5 year MBA, if Mayank stays here just for 3 months, 90 days, he gets the post-study work visa. France says if you study here for 6 months to 9 months, you get the post-study work visa. And France, through a bilateral treaty, has now extended that period to 5 years. After a French degree, I get 5 years to find a job. So the fact that Indians are now openly being invited to fill the talent shortage, to fill the talent gaps, is a testament to the fact that MBAs are not just absolute degrees, but an upskilling medium to enter their job market and thrive. That is what they want all of all of the Indian students to actually do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I personally believe that today in this ecosystem where we are, India has the ability of being the talent capital for the world. If you need good talent, you have to get people from India to work on some of these initiatives, whether it is healthcare, whether it is finance, whether it is marketing, whether it is sales. You will want, and I think somebody mentioned that Indian education has produced some of the best talent available out there. Indian talent will be required. I think to what Praneeth said, France and Germany, they need STEM talent. They're looking for people who understands technology really well, and I think India has a good strong technology base where we can sort of provide the right set of talent. But potentially, India has an opportunity of being the Vishwa Guru, where we provide the talent and then sort of take to different parts of the world. And globally, you will see a lot of CEOs, CXOs coming who are from Indian origin, who may have studied in some of these countries and sort of settled down there. And that's the opportunity I mean, personally, both Praneeth and I are excited about that. If we can position and get India to be the talent capital of the world,
Absolutely.
a lot of sort of unlocking of wealth and a lot of unlocking of opportunities for this country will come in.
Absolutely, yes, Mac. Absolutely. I think schools recognize that. A lot of parts of the world now recognize STEM talent. Canada has an extremely exclusive express entry draw for STEM students. France and Germany have lowered down their fee structure for STEM degrees. openly inviting to come and contribute to as much research in AI, ML, and analytics and large language models, Gen AI. So with that, I'm going to jump right into questions that you guys have asked us. Of course, I'm
Yeah.
going to pick up some that are, that are important for everyone to know, and I will answer personally the ones that are very individualistic. A lot of them, Mayank had asked if they can do it without IELTS. Yes, Finland and France, both of them do not need an English proficiency test as long as the medium of instruction of your last qualification is English. They do not need you to demonstrate any EPT. However, they would like to speak to you once, like most of the B schools in India do, just to demonstrate if you can speak well. Um, a lot of them, Mayank, are asking which country is a better one to pursue an MBA in UK or Germany? Maybe you can refer to an economical standpoint.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, so I think so both UK and Germany are interesting markets. Couple of points to note that today I love UK and I love the country, but given post Brexit, some of the opportunities are not as sort of exciting. But I think UK is a phenomenal market. Long term, you want to sort of be there. I'll give you just some statistics. So I think if you want to look at doing an MBA in the UK, a UK MBA will cost you, and I'm just talking about rupee terms here, will cost you about, let's say, 17, 18 lakh rupees. So that's the cost of an MBA that you will get from UK. While if you look at doing it in Germany, the cost will be, as I told you, the MBA was 9 lakh rupees, but let's assume that's a one-off. It's a anomaly, and then the average MBA there in Germany will cost you about 15 lakh rupees. So 17, 18 lakh in the UK and 15 lakh in Germany. So it's not that different, but there's a 2-3 lakh premium that you have to pay for your MBA in the UK. Come to think of the jobs that you get in the end of the program in the UK, the job number would be at about 45,000 pounds sterling is what sort of your average starting salary could potentially be after doing an MBA at 17 lakh rupees. The same in Germany is about 55, 60,000 euro. So from an ROI perspective, Germany ends up becoming relatively better than the UK. Yes, UK has the advantage of being Indian, English-speaking country, etc. But Germany is actually opening up a lot of opportunities for people who come with good STEM talent. So I think if you're looking at, I have many friends who have decided to settle down in Germany, partly because opportunities are great. It's now getting and becoming a lot more open sort of culture and open environment, and kids' education, healthcare, everything is sort of well taken care of. So I think from not just from the ROI perspective, but a long-term life quality perspective, I do feel that Germany has got some phenomenal opportunities for anybody sort of looking at doing it right now.
Absolutely. I think to add to that, Germany is now the third largest economy, just over to Japan a little while ago. And I think Germany is thriving in terms of consulting jobs, industry jobs, automation, analytics, finance, accounting. Germany, of course, is the largest economy in Europe. So it does make a lot of sense. I think I'd also like to add to Mayank to say that because it's a Schengen state, in a
Yeah.
while you can look for jobs across Schengen states. So it does.
No, and
Please,
the
Mayank.
Brexit thing, it's like actually UK has just sort of excluded themselves overall, and then the Schengen sort of adds a lot of value. I think Jay should ask the question about some of the fees online MBA hybrid. I think I'm talking about more hybrid or offline.
Hybrid.
Hybrid, I mean partly online and then sort of destination market, but you are studying in the destination country. And I think when you get the hybrid model, Jayesh, some of the ROIs that we're talking about actually doubles in some
Double.
cases, because you suddenly have a lower spend for the first half of the program because you can do it online, and then when you land sort of on campus, you have to pay for a lower portion of the program fees in the destination country, and therefore your stay cost also comes down. So if your ROI was X, it gets to 2X when you move from a fully offline program versus a hybrid offline program. Advantages of both of them are the same because you land up with a similar kind of visa approach, study visa. It's just that you can save some time and cost of doing it in a hybrid manner while doing it completely online.
Absolutely. And I think, Jayesh, like Mayank was mentioning, you're almost saving like one full semester, at least in a master's degree, and one semester worth of living costs. I think universities are very much willing to offer institutional scholarships. So when with hybrid degrees, when you're starting in India, understand that you're easing into academic rigor. You are absorbing a lot of robust content. You're doing all of these case studies, and you're becoming a lot sharper than a regular student who's entering on day one. So when you enter with them, you're already at an advantage. That way, the benefit of a lower prorated fee, more scholarships, more institutional discounts because you're moving from one school to the next. All of this really brings down the cost. And like Mayank was saying, it takes your ROI 4.5x. So that's some of the things that you should keep in perspective.
And
Uh,
just from a recruiter perspective, I don't think it
yeah,
matters. But at the end of the day, you have gotten the MBA. The MBA credential is the same that you would get otherwise as well. So it's not that your MBA certificate and the other MBA certificate will say this, etc.
online anyway.
The norms are the same. So there's not that much, there's no difference per se. It is your ability to sort of talk about it. And in terms of ROI, I'll give you an example. One of our learners who did a hybrid program, did a master's in Germany. He got a starting salary of about 160,000 US dollars. And that's not a joke. I mean, this is a significant sort of uh, amount of salary that he's getting. And that's all largely happening because the program and the rigor does not get dropped. So if you're thinking that online will be easier, that's not going to happen because you will go through the same rigor, because at the end of the day, universities are accepting these credits into their offline. The reason why they're accepting is because they believe it's pari passu, apples to apples. They don't believe that this is apple and this is oranges, because if it was apples and oranges, then you'd have to do slightly more coursework. But they are validating those credits, and therefore, while anecdotal, getting a cracking a job of 160, $150,000 plus is not a thing. And just because it is hybrid, he did not get penalized because of that, and was able to crack the interview that was coming his way.
Absolutely, man. Can that make sense? Yeah, I'm absolutely with you. I think at the end of the day, employers value your absolute mental skill and your relative standing in the class. And the more prepared or academically ready you come to the class with, you're always going to finish in the top 1% more often than not, because you've absorbed a lot of coursework in India, given yourself the time and learned that foundation and advanced skill set.
Today in the morning, which says which are the ethnic communities in the US and what's the average median household income. And guess what? India was number one. And India was followed very closely with Taiwan. And despite it being number one, we were at least about 30, 40, 50% ahead of Taiwan as a number two country, then followed by some China, Pakistan, so on and so forth. So I think Indian community abroad also has a slight bit of, call it advantage or call it sort of a head start, because we come from high quality education sort of background, and therefore when we land up there, we are able to perform well, and that also adds to what
Yes.
sort of get out of as an outcome from some of these programs out there.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of more questions. We've got the last 6 minutes. So online PGDM versus online MBA. I think I defer to Mayank and we'll know his opinion.
Yeah, sure. So I think both online PGDM and online MBA are, I mean, look, PGDM MBA does not matter much, because I think a lot of IIMs offer PGDM, and therefore online PGDM definitely is of value. MBA is just a slightly more evolved name, and in many conversations it comes out as MBA. But I don't think you get judged on the fact that, oh, you have a PGDM versus you have an MBA. But if you have an option, choose an MBA, but do not choose an MBA because it has an MBA degree. If it is apples to apples, then choose an MBA. But if you see curriculum wise, the online PGDM is a slightly better play for you to sort of focus on, and the curriculum is slightly better, then you can choose, might as well choose online PGDM. I don't see a difference, significant difference between the two. It is just a nomenclature. It is about which one has a better curriculum, which is better suited for your career needs, and then go with that mindset versus the credential name mindset.
Right, man. We've got this very interesting question from Chirag, man, and I hope he's still around to answer. Sorry, to know your opinion on this. Yeah, I think he's there. So he says, what do you have to say about if I'm willing to do an MBA abroad? but I want to return back to India. What will be the ROI?
So I say
We,
you definitely can come back, Chirag. I think my personal recommendation is that look, while you're going there to study, at least get 3, 4 years of experience there.
yes,
It's too big experience. I mean, work life is going to be too big and it's going to extend. I mean, if 60 was the age of retirement, a few years later you'll retire at 70, 75, 80 because you'll continue working and as life elongates, you want to work. So a couple of years, 3, 4 years here and there does not matter. I strongly recommend if you're going out there, experience the work environment, get that work environment right, and then come back to India. Because I think education is one part of it. Work
yes.
experiencing the work environment is another part of it. If you get both of them, when you land up back, you are in a much sort of stronger position to actually leverage what you learn, what you experience into the Indian ecosystem. I'll give a very simple example, right? I mean, in India, as you're working, and I work with a lot of people, it's very difficult for people to say no. So they will say, yeah, yeah, it will happen. Don't worry, it will happen. Don't worry, it will happen. When you go abroad and we are working on tight timelines, deadlines, people are very blunt to say, no, no, it's not, I'm not, I can't do it, sorry, so I'm not taking that up. That as a culture also, when you bring it back to India, is a very different environment altogether. When you sort of come back and you work and you bring that ethos into the Indian ecosystem where you cannot say just yes to anything and everything. You can say no to things. And that's something that I've seen, that even experiencing something like that is equally valuable, which you will only do if you are actually working there for some job or the other.
That does make sense, of course. We've got a couple of quick ones, Mayank. One is job prospects, which is better, Germany or Finland? I think, of course, I'll let you take this and then I'll give the statistics of how this is. But I think very openly, the Prime Minister of Finland has invited Indians to get 30,000 jobs every year. And so that's a very identified niche set of jobs that they're willing in ICT and business. Germany, of course, is a market that
I heard Germany. I was talking to German team, the Germany sort of in-country team in India, and they were quoting a number of 400,000.
wow.
So I don't know which one. So look, I think both the places, if your education is good, you will get jobs. And given that all of them are EU, Schengen countries, you can move from one to another. Um, don't just look at for jobs as one aspect. Many a times you should see this from a work environment perspective also. Sometimes it is not just jobs. Like Gopi is 43 years old with 22 years of experience. Now, he will not go for job per se. While job is an important aspect, he will also go with what kind of lifestyle will I get when I land up in Sweden, Denmark, Germany, etc., etc. I think that those are equally important thing to choose. I cannot give a very clear-cut answer, Finland versus Germany. I need to understand the profile of that individual and then give the answer. But both have got their pros, both have got their cons, and I think that's something that you should sort of take the decision very clearly. I think Anani Chauhan has sort of, or maybe it's Ananya or Anani Chauhan. I think he has mentioned that look, there's no one-on-one, nobody's calling me back. That's sadly what how our how our teams are. I mean, there's enough people reaching out to us, so sometimes we do drop the ball. But if you could, in a personal message, send to Praneeth your email ID. Praneeth will ensure that somebody reaches out to you for a follow-up counseling.
I'll also put my email ID down here so you guys can, of course, reach out and we'll make sure that the calls are scheduled. Man, the last one, I'm sure it's very difficult for you considering you, I mean, you're doing both online, offline MBAs, but why should I not do an online MBA when I've got an on-campus abroad option and as much money?
Why should you not do an online MBA? I think, look, I mean, online MBA will make you focus on the current country itself. So you will just sort of be in India. And the reason for not doing an online MBA is if you want to settle abroad, if you want to go abroad, if you want to be there, that's number one. Number two, the kind of experience that you get when you go abroad. I mean, it's a very diverse set of people. I mean, as I said, somebody from Brazil, somebody from Germany, somebody from sort of Kenya, and when you're doing this later, the value you do not get at the point of time you're doing an MBA, but 10 years later, you're going and doing some work, and that network definitely helps. And I think in the sort of on-campus MBA program, we definitely build those networks in a very sort of different way, in a very sort of interesting manner. So I think those are the advantages, and those are the reason why sort of on campus and a destination MBA is critical, and that's what people should look for. Look, as I said, I've now come to a complete conclusion that world is not black or white. There's always a shade of gray. There's always a pro and cons of each one of them. But I think today we are talking about study abroad and abroad options. And I think for people who are looking at moving, settling down, building a career in a new country, experiencing a new work environment, I think abroad MBAs definitely stand head and shoulder above.
Thank you so much, Mayank. I know we've been able to answer almost everything, but I'll request all of you, well, number one to begin with, super grateful on behalf of Mayank and myself that you guys made time. I know some of you are here for now almost 1 hour, and I really appreciate, and I'm sure he does as well. On a Wednesday evening, you've made time for this, and make sure that you get counseled. So make sure you drop your leads. Yeah, man, please.
Is there a link that you can drop in if they want a follow-up conversation? I don't know if maybe
Of course.
you can drop an email to Praneeth, or if you guys want to do a follow-up, I don't know if there's a link or not, but I mean, drop a note to Praneeth for any follow-up if you want to schedule a counseling. Because I think, look, there's no generic answer, and therefore what Praneeth is saying that, look, you guys need to get a customized answer for your own profile. If you need that, do reach out to Praneeth. He will try to schedule a one-on-one conversation with somebody who can talk about your profile specifically.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you visit our website, MK has put down a few links. Whenever you visit and you log in with your OTP, that's the moment you get a one-on-one scheduling option. So just get that done. We'll make sure tomorrow you guys are called. But anyway, because you signed up for the webinar in the next 48 hours, we'll make sure you call. But if there's very specific that you'd want me to put forth to Mayank for an answer, we'll make sure that we get that done. I'll put down my email address. But thank you so much for being here. I'd let Mayank give a valedictory.
Nothing. I think it's a great thing. I mean, 7:33, 1 hour that you guys, I mean, you're bearing us. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. I hope this was useful. Look, our objective is to sort of bring out, I mean, just exposing you guys to different things, because sometimes if you're not exposed to, you don't know what are the opportunities that exist outside. I think it's an interesting sort of hybrid program that the team has worked on, where you can reduce the cost and the price of the study abroad option, yet get the same sort of value coming in. So if it's of interest, please reach out to us. If this was useful, give us feedback. If it was not useful, let us know how we can improve in the future as well. Thank you, guys, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Mayank, for being with us. Thank you. It's been an absolute honor. Thank you very much.